What's up, y'all? The NBA season is back, and while teams continue to find their footing, our partners at FANATICS Sportsbook are already running championship plays. Bet with Fanatics and earn up to 10% fan cash on your bets, win or lose. So even if your bet misses, you're still scoring fan cash, which you can use on NBA gear, tickets, and exclusive Fanatics events. And with fair play, if your players go down injured in the first half, your bet stays live. Make the switch and get more ways to win with Fanatics Sportsbook. Winning hits different here.
Hey there, Knicks fans. How you doing? It's your boy, Jonathan Macri, with you for another edition of the Knicks Film School Podcast. Coming at you with a little weekly recap in between a couple of football games. I would say congratulations to the New England Patriots, but I don't want to anger my esteemed co-host here. So instead, I will just ask him, Jeremy Cohen, can I interest you in a lightly used Ferrari?
Sure.
Lamborghini. Sorry, I think it's a Lamborghini.
Lamborghini? Yeah.
I think it's a Lamborghini, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't hate the Patriots. I just, whether it's going to college in Boston or seeing the success, all of it. I don't know who will come out of the NFC, but I'm rooting for them.
As you should. What do you call it? Was watching the game today just because there was not really any other sports on other than the Pistons pummeling the Kings. So yeah, I don't really have any interest in the NFC Championship game. Suppose I'll get a rooting interest before I don't know, at some point, maybe tonight. But we're here to talk about the Knicks. But before we do, I will just make a public service announcement to anyone, I guess, watching or listening to this. Yes, my Twitter account did unfortunately get hacked. No, I don't have any great advice on Bitcoin or sports cars for you. So hopefully that'll become unhacked at some point in the near future and I can regain access to it. I don't know where to start. I mean, I guess we should start with the basketball because that's what the Knicks are. They're a team that plays basketball. Although it seems like the ratio of off-court stuff for us to talk about right now versus on-court stuff for us to talk about right now is it's out of whack. And that's why I do want to bring it back to the basketball, especially since they're coming off of a nice basketball game in which a lot of interesting things happen on the basketball court. But I'll just start with this, as I always do. What were your impressions of the week here?
Chaos. It's pure chaos. I mean, it's just because you start out with an embarrassment of a game, and then you embarrass your opponent, and then you get a hard-fought W in Philadelphia against a team that's had your number the two previous times you've played them, specifically in MSG. So it was a mixed bag, but all in all, the challenge for me is we can't say, well, the Mavs game, they just got blown out. You throw the tape out. And then, because then that would mean that the Nets game is the inverse of that. And then, so now you're throwing out a second game. So then do you only have one game of data of the week? That's a tricky thing to do. But that, again, there's something about getting blown out by the Mavs at home that feels like, okay, maybe this is rock bottom. And then we just move on. And this has happened to the team before. So my hope is it continues moving in that direction, that was like the kick in the pants that was needed in order to move forward.
Well, the last time they got kicked in the pants by the Mavs in this level of or in this sort of fashion, memorably, was in December of 2022. Yeah, December of 2022. After which they reeled off. I always forget this. It was 8 straight, right? It was not 9 straight. It was 8 straight. Yeah, it was 8 straight games. They've now won 2 in a row. Their next 6, for anybody who's curious, Sacramento at home, who actually got off to a good start today in Detroit, and then just got, again, their doors blown off. Then they make a trip to Toronto, tough, back-to-back with travel. Then Portland at home, the Lakers at home. The Lakers are kind of going through their own issues at the moment. Then you go to Washington, who is certainly not trying to win basketball games. And then you got Denver at home, which, again, lots to be done before that Denver game, but that Denver game would represent their 8th win in a row if they are able to, reel off the next 5 consecutive. I am not yet willing to say that this team has fully righted this ship. The Nets game was, like I said that night, and I don't feel any differently now. The Nets game was their first opportunity to show everybody who roots for this team, as well as probably show themselves, that yes, you still have reasons to believe in us. But it's going to take a lot more than that, starting with the Philly game. And like the stuff that plagued them in the Sixers game, obviously what happened to them in the fourth quarter, and specifically what happened to them in the last 40 seconds that almost made that a very different outcome. I'm not going to necessarily relate that stuff to any of the things that we have been concerned about of late, although I will ask you that question before I just kind of assume as much.
The concerning details specifically?
Yeah, just like there were obviously concerns coming out of the Philly game, like you let a 17-point fourth quarter lead go almost fully by the wayside, and then you have some real crunch time struggles. To say nothing of the fact that like their defense in the first half was okay, but it was not A+ defense. So like those sorts of things. Again, watching how they struggled at times in the Philly game, it wasn't like, oh, here we go again. It's like almost like those were like a unique set of issues. I don't know if I'm phrasing this correctly.
I see what you mean. Yeah. So I had the benefit of watching the second half today because I had to go to a wedding last night for one of my close friends. And
congratulations.
I think, yeah, it was a really lovely ceremony and party and event. But it's actually the game. I could see it on my home screen or on my lock screen. And they were like, okay, time to put the phones away. And I was like, come on, there's like 5 seconds left here. I can't.
5 seconds. Jalen Brunson's at the line. What could go wrong?
Right. So then game ends and I just text the group chat of everyone who's there. And I was like, Knicks win. Good luck to the groom, in the group chat. So he would see it as well. He wasn't looking, of course. He was a little focused on getting married. But it just.
Understandable. Yes,
exactly. Third quarter defense leading to offense in so many ways. Those second chance points were fantastic to watch in the way that Mitchell Robinson dominated the Philadelphia 76ers. But yeah, I mean, it was an interesting time to start, especially closing with that 5 out. But to me, a bigger factor for the fourth quarter was how close is it if you don't see Mikal Bridges just bricking shot after shot? And that to me, I know that there are defensive things that we can talk about. Absolutely. But when you're not scoring on the offensive end, especially when you don't get the stops and you're forcing it and you don't get it and you get these offensive rebounds and you still can't connect. And a big reason is the player who was then benched for the rest of the game. And then things
deservedly
down a little bit. Yes, absolutely. So not to pinpoint it on him, there were other reasons, of course, but when you're not able to go back to the well offensively, that can let the other team get back into the game.
I think if you're going to be negative, or negative is the wrong word, if you're going to come out of that Sixer game with not concerns is the wrong word, but just like I'm going to say what the kids say, feeling a certain type of way. I think the reason you're feeling a certain type of way is because the guy that you traded the 5 first-round picks for last summer, or whatever, a year and a half ago now, and then the guy that you kind of sort of rested your title hopes on in Karl Anthony Towns, those two guys decidedly did not play a role in this victory at all. And the guys who, they were my number 1 and number 2 players of the game in my newsletter stars, were the longest tenured Nick, who will be certain that he will be a Knick for the rest of this year on February 6th at 4:05 p.m. Until then, I would not be placing any bets. You're laughing.
I'm laughing because you picked the day after and a different time that's past the deadline.
Oh, is it? When's the deadline?
It's February 5th at 3:00.
Sorry.
That's why it was like, what a random time for him to be like, yeah, I know for the last
I thought it was February 6th.
in an hour and 5 minutes. I've been saved. So.
Well, you never know. Maybe maybe the fax machines are broken.
Mm-hmm.
So that guy who rocks, and I think Knicks fans would be appropriately apoplectic if they traded almost regardless of what they got back. And then a guy who's signed to a freaking Exhibit 9 contract, and was missing for half the year. Those are the two guys who helped bring home your victory. I mean, obviously OG Anunoby and Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart played big roles as well. So, what do you make of that? And that's why I was envisioning a conversation that we were going to have that was very compartmentalized. Like, all right, let's talk about the week, and then let's talk about the trade report. But it's kind of hard to go from there to Jake Fisher drops a note about the Portland Trailblazers have always really liked Mikal Bridges, and wouldn't they, be a perfect trade partner because they have all of these future Milwaukee draft assets. So for as much as the Knicks have, they have done well, or as well as could be expected to emerge from that 2-9 stretch, and specifically from that debacle against the Mavs, there is still kind of a lot of stuff in the air. And frankly, I don't know what would happen. I mean, other than just going on a real run and putting all the stuff behind them, it feels like it's going to be in the air for a little while now.
It does. I don't think anything significant has changed. They've won games, 2, which winning back-to-back games for the first time since late December, when we're already in late January, for a team that's billed as a contender. That is, or should you choose to believe it or not, the books certainly still say that the Knicks are, but that's disappointing. You would think that that would not have happened, and yet here we are. So because of the fact that they were able to secure that win, it makes it feel like, well, there are larger issues that are still here, but you won the battle. What's the war looking like? And the thing that I thought with the third quarter was there was a lot that was said over the last few weeks as people descended into madness, and not even in
I'm right here, Jeremy.
I'm not even saying it's not valid. I'm just saying it happened. People, it can include yourself.
I'm a people.
You are. Although maybe not on Twitter anymore. But with with that in mind, so it's that part of, okay, well, Jalen Brunson, perhaps him being on the court with a great defense around him, can still work. It can. Yeah. You just have to have that level of buy-in and the right combination of players. And I don't want to put a lot of this on Cat, or all of this on Cat, to be fair.
But you're gonna.
Well, in this moment, it's like he clearly was not able to do much in the third quarter due to foul trouble. He wasn't on the court. They did well. And then to start the fourth quarter, not a whole lot was happening. Now, with that in mind, Cat comes off the floor. It's not like the Knicks were really keeping it together in the fourth quarter defensively. So I don't want to use, truly, even with those comments in mind, I don't want to use one quarter against another quarter and extrapolate to such a degree. It's just that it continues to feel like, are these two players able to collaborate at the highest level together? And then you have another question of Mikal Bridges. And then there was the OG Anunoby inconsistency, where it really wasn't until he found his footing.
Can we talk about that for a sec?
Sure. Yeah.
Was that the most impressive OG has been on defense since he's come back from injury?
I believe so. And whether it was you or the hacker, someone from your account tweeted that OG Anunoby needed to show up defensively. And I agree with that person.
It came out that I've actually been hacked for the last month and all this shit, all the Cat stuff. It's none of it's me. That's what I should go with.
Yeah, you're actually just one child in a trench coat is basically what it is. That's all right. I'm maybe 1 1/4. But anyways, it's that kind of feeling of It's that feeling of, okay, OG is able to do the things that he needs to do. And what I have been thinking about as well, because he's paid a lot. And when you get paid that amount of money, it's not just about bringing the defensive contributions. It's, okay, you actually have to step it up on offense.
Yeah.
And something that I've been thinking about quite a bit is, okay, OG is not looking settled. The shot has been off. He has been forcing things. And I can't help but wonder, okay, yes, on one hand, is it just OG Anunoby, the ego comments that Josh Hart had where they directed at him last year? Is this someone who's just doing too much when they should scale back a little bit? Or is this someone who perhaps sees other players not taking advantage of the role that they have and feeling, if you're not going to do it, I feel like I have to do it? Slash, is there perhaps a system offensively that Mike Brown is looking to incorporate?
Yeah.
And a player that has been talked about a lot who would be a real table setter for some guy, where if it's drive and kick out to the corner and you've got one of the best corner shooters in OG Anunoby in the league, where he's like, look, I'm happy to do more offensively, but also I'm not getting the looks necessarily that I want, and I feel I have to do this. So that's kind of where I'm left wondering.
What are there any other teams asking these questions? Any other fan bases of any other teams out there asking these questions? I wish I wonder whether this player feels a certain type of way about getting his shots, or whether he feels a certain type of way about someone else not taking advantage of the shots that he's getting. This does not feel like a common NBA fan. By the way, I'm not begrudging you for having the conversation. I'm just pointing out, like, this is a little ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think the Lakers are one team where right now, without Austin Reeves,
the Lakers can, excuse my French, can fuck off with the whole Rich Paul and LeBron thing. Sorry, but that's a unique situation.
Okay. You asked me if there are any other teams.
Yes, and correct.
Yep, and I would also point to the fact that we are laser focused on this team in many ways. It's not to say we don't have a scope of the NBA, but we don't have quite the same pulse. So do I think this is a larger problem than for other teams? Of course, absolutely. Especially when you get to a certain level of talent, which, if we're talking about the top 10 teams in the league, for example, the Knicks are one of them. So that means, are you just like filtering out 20 other teams because it doesn't really matter for them? The stakes are so low. So I hear you and I agree. And then it makes me wonder, if we're going through another coach, a different coach, and this is still a question that's potentially being floated, is it the same players? Is it different players? Is it the combination of this team? If you're not all on the same page, how do you all get on the same page? Because the way that the ball was moving in that third quarter, that was classic Knicks offense of what you're looking for. Yep. Defense turning into offense as well. That was exactly what you would expect from this team. And not seeing it for the longest time, I think, made a lot of people forget that that's what the Knicks can do. And the Nets game, yeah, sure, it was the Nets. Well, I don't think anyone really had clobbering the Nets by 54 on their bingo card. I just was really hoping they would double them up score-wise. It didn't happen, but they were close enough. So that to me wasn't just, that wasn't like, oh, you're beating the Nets. Like, congrats. Like, it's a great win with sarcasm. No, I don't really know what else the Knicks could have done in that case. They held them to 10 points in the fourth quarter, and that was their bench doing that. And the Nets themselves didn't even score. That was a sheer embarrassment.
It was a shellacking.
So with that, I hear you. And there has to be something that's misaligned right now. It's the way I see it. It's not, nothing has changed as the whole. They are winning based on talent, but the talent has come together more in the last couple games than it did during that brutal stretch.
OG, I just looked it up, and bad job by me, or my hacker. I didn't realize that things had gotten this bad. He's down. I'm not going to look at per game because everybody's playing fewer minutes. So his scoring on a per minute basis is actually pretty much the same, 17.7 per 36 last year, 17.3 per 36 this year. But he's playing a few minutes, so it looks like his scoring has gone down a lot, from 18 to a little under 16. The effective field goal percentage is what has dropped by 20 points, and it's pretty much all because of the threes. 37% last year, just a little above 34% this year. Again, I hadn't realized it had gone down that much. The crazy thing is this offense, which is supposed to get guys specifically like OG Anunoby more good looks from deep, he's taking, again, about the same number of threes per minute as he did last year. But again, it's still like less. So look, I always kind of I do think OG is the guy who often is like feeling a certain way about things. He's the sort of guy where I think if you give him a little bit, you get a lot out of it. And I think in a game like that where he was involved more offensively. Now, look, I had on my guy Tilo, who covers the Wolves for Canis Hoopus earlier this week, and he talked about, listen, Cat needs his certain touches to make him feel good and included in the offense and the whole thing. OG's the same way. And this is going to transition to the conversation about Cat, because I think OG, if you give him that little bit, those freaking mid-rangers that I abhor because he's hitting 1 out of every 3 this year, and that's not that far off from his career numbers. I think it really does like help his level of buy-in on both ends of the floor, and it leads to the sort of defense that we saw him play down the stretch of that game, which was great. With Cat, it's a little bit of a trickier conversation because OG, it's just like, there's no question that if he is fully motivated and energized, you're getting a top 40 player and exactly the sort of guy who makes the Knicks hum on both ends. Cat, there's this whole other conversation of, you have to get him motivated, and also it's about putting him in positions to win, and what kind of defense are you playing around him to accommodate him, and are you continuing to get him the ball in advantageous positions? And it's all this other stuff, which is why I think the frustration level has boiled over a little bit more with him. Last thing, and then I don't know what else you want to say about this week. On McCall, I know there's a lot of frustration for Bridges based on that game, and it was a terrible game. He's shooting more efficiently this year than he was last year. Mm-hmm. Like, he had a down year last year, but he's 58.2 effective field goal percentage. It's pretty good. It's not as impressive as most guys who are shooting that percentage because he gets to the line never. But it's okay. It's just, it's like this, it's like the constant thing with him. You want a little bit more. A little bit more. If you got 10, 15% more, but it's that 10, 15% that I think drives people crazy. Anything else you want to say about the basketball before we kind of move on to some of the off-court stuff?
Yes. With OG, I understand the two-way play that is required or that is idealized by fans, and it should be there. You're not just paying for no offense. You're paying for two-way play. But it can get lost a lot in that when we talk about two-way superstars, and that's not what OG is, or even just high-level two-way players, it is so difficult to have a high level of responsibility on offense and a high level of it on defense. You're exhausted. There's so much that you have to do. So when you talk about someone like Cat, when his role is to be that offensive focal point, when he is not able to contribute, if that shifts where then the burden feels a little bit more on OG, and then he's putting too much effort and time on the offensive side than you would like, and instead of saving it for the defense, which is where the team needs it. So that's kind of where I was thinking in terms of the OG side. With Bridges, yes, the individual numbers for Bridges are really quite good. Like, in a vacuum as a player, he is doing a lot of the right things. It's just how that translates to the team and the winning aspect of it, especially when there is a need for more physicality on both ends. And you talk about the offensive side where he doesn't get to the line, and that's not because he gets a bad whistle. And the defensive side where he's got a lot of endurance. He's got that Iron Man streak and doesn't miss games. But his frame, of course, it's easier for him to be able to play those games. If he had bulked up, maybe it might be a little bit harder because he's carrying more mass, but he's not. He's a skinny guy. So as a player himself, quite good. That is by no means, I don't have any issue with Mikal Bridges as an individual player. In fact, I would boast about him. It's the part where it translates to the cohesion of the team, because a lot of what he's able to do is if he is able to let other players do their thing and then he sneaks into passing lanes or wherever he is, him coming over and being that disruptive force, fantastic, important. But sometimes you need more than that. Sometimes you feel you need more than that. And the extension, to me, the timing of it, the fact that it didn't correspond to a date that would have made him ineligible to be traded this entire season, has always been of note, and the trade bonus that he would receive if traded was always something else that I thought was can say he took a discount when if he gets traded, he didn't. He took a full max extension because then it kicks in. So uh, that's basically lobbing it up for the next topic if you so choose, unless you have anything else to say with that.
Well, it's related, but like the one more thing with Cat, I think there would be so much less hand wringing this season if the non-Brunson Cat minutes, and shout out to Benji, he was on this in the preseason. He brought it up again this week. If the non-Brunson Cat minutes were just what they were last season, where it was campaign and, when he was healthy, Landry Shamet, and, sometimes Deuce McBride when they went small, which they did, as a backup unit, they went small sometimes last year, and whoever else was out there, whether it was Precious or one of the wings, because you could at least, you knew that during those stretches of the game, like that 5, 6, 7 minute stretch to start or more like 5 minute stretch to start the second quarter and start the fourth quarter, which, by the way, talk about it won them their first conference finals game in 25 years, start of the fourth quarter. You knew what you were going to get, and they blew the doors off teams. Looking at Cat's numbers with other Knicks now, of all the Knicks that he's played significant minutes, which I put as at least 500. Well, Clarkson's close. He's at 485. But like he's played at least 485 minutes with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different players. None of the overall plus minus numbers that are associated with any of those pairings are like crazy good. The best one is McBride, which is plus 7.5, but McBride is like great with everybody. So it doesn't even like stand out there, although the offense 122, which is again solid. You have to go down to the 7th pairing, which has played 305 minutes together. Cat and, I'll give you one guess, Tyler Kolek. And those groupings are outscoring teams by 12.4 per 100. The reason why I'm not going crazy like, oh, Tyler Kolek still needs to be in the rotation and that's the key to unlocking Cat. Those lineups are getting by on defense because they're only allowing 104.6, which to put into context is better than the league leading Thunder. So I don't know if that's like the most sustainable thing. They're scoring 117, which is like whatever. It's an average number. It's a little bit better than average, but it's not as good as Cat with some of these other guys. So I guess this is a very long-winded way of saying I don't know that we've seen anything this year that should realistically give us a view of like, oh, if they just do this with Cat in terms of what we've seen this year, then it's going to solve these issues, which is, again, I don't, now we can transition to the other conversation because I'll just ask you, what on a scale of 1 to 10, how shocked would you be with 10 being the most shocked, 1 being, or should it be 10 being the most shocked or 1 being the most shocked?
I think 10 would be the most shocked.
The most shocked. 1 to 10. How shocked would you be if, let's put Mitch aside. One of the other, and actually let's put Deuce aside. One of the starters, current starters, got traded before the deadline.
In terms of, probably like a 2. I wouldn't be shocked at all.
So let's talk about it. Why?
Sure. Because this is a championship aspiration season, and if this team, as currently constructed, is not able to function as that in the eyes of the front office, then I expect changes to be made. In terms of Cat, Mike Brown, the the quote that he said this time that I thought was the most intriguing was when he said a couple days ago, I've had to make some adjustments to help him out, make it a little easier for him, which I've done. It's different play calls and actions that we do. We've made the adjustments to try and make it a little easier for him, try put him in positions that will help get him into stuff quicker. On the surface, I don't think that is a real issue. This is a coach where if you are saying you want a coach to adapt to a player's skill set, this is exactly what you would want to hear. With that said, it also feels like, hey, the offensive system that we have in mind that I was brought here to work with, I am now having to adjust it so that this player can perform better. You could look at it either way, as I'm doing my best to work with someone, but right now if you're rowing in opposite directions, now you're acquiescing to what his needs are. Him being, in this case, Mike Brown for Cat. It didn't feel like, without trying to instigate any drama here, because we know that there might be a little bit of friction. It's really
Drama?
more just
What?
It's really more just like, okay,
Go so crazy someplace else.
He's saying we're doing this differently to accommodate another player. That is I in team. There's a me in team, but that's a little different.
Ian said it a different way. There's players on this team that are me before we.
Exactly. So, and it's like what it said. Take the M, flip it upside down. It's W. Me, wait, Madam Morrible, Wicked Witch. It's exactly the same
if you heard that noise, that was my forehead hitting the nice granite countertop here.
Exactly, but it wouldn't surprise me at all. And when you think about the Giannis situation, which every day feels like a new episode of a soap opera, and their comparisons to the timing of the divorce, and it's just like rip the Band-Aid off already. That's what it feels like. So because that is your main objective. And you said to exclude Mitch. I want to talk about the Mitch of it all for a second, which is that.
Hold on. Can I respond to, or is it related? Because
it's an adjacent topic. So yes, please.
Okay. You took the Brown press conference to be your most telling soundbite of the last few days. My most telling soundbite of the last several days was 2 words, and it was "get up," uttered by Josh Hart to a version of Karl Anthony Towns who was sprayed out across the floor there, saying, I think he said "fuck me" a couple times in terms of alluding to the fact that he's in pain and his back is bothering him. Josh Hart in that moment looked like me when my 4-year-old is like writhing on the bathroom floor at 8:00 at night because she is refusing to brush her teeth. And I think I might have more sympathy for Isabel in that situation than Josh Hart had for Karl Anthony Towns in that moment in Philadelphia. And to be very clear, I am not saying that to allude to the fact there's clearly drama and Josh Hart hates Karl Anthony. No, I'm not. It's not even about that. It's about, I really do. I sometimes use comparisons to poke fun or to get a laugh. I really do think that relationship is closer to like a parent-child or I don't know, any situation where it's like we have to really, I have to deal with this now. It's like, could we just get the fuck up, and that just feels like where we are, which I don't know if that has any relevance to anything you just said. It feels like it has a little bit of relevance.
I mean, they are coworkers who at this moment are a year apart in age. So I don't know if it's quite parent and child, but I get what
it's ridiculous. Saying. It's a ridiculous comparison.
It's 2 coworkers where patience feels like it's run thin in some degree. And the thing is, with Josh Hart's comments, I didn't even read them in the I'm done with Karl Anthony Towns type of way. I thought that he was answering look, it's about all of us. We got to do this. But
you're talking about the presser now.
At the presser, yes. Yeah, okay. That portion of it, I thought, okay, well, if he's saying I want to hear more about Karl blocking shots than about his points, you could read into it, of course, but when I heard it, it did not feel quite the way that it could be read without the tone and inclination in his voice. But I don't doubt what you're saying.
No,
yeah, when you say get up, it's not.
No, it's merely, it was merely like, okay, can I just ask you maybe a simple question? If Josh Hart thought that Karl Anthony Towns was in a level of pain that really did prevent him from doing his job in that moment, do you think he would have responded the way he did?
It's just so tough to say, because
is that an unfair question to me to ask? If it is, tell me, please.
The reason I'm struggling with the quote unquote fairness of the question is because the pain tolerance of one other person You could say, all right, well, Josh Hart has an inside look as to how Cat is managing with pain. And you could say Josh Hart could be like, look, I had a back issue that kept me out for a while. And then there were fans that said, get the surgery, get it done. My finger is messed up, get the surgery, get it done, do it. All these things. So Josh Hart knows what pain feels like. So I don't think I don't think that he didn't have sympathy for Cat from a pain tolerance standpoint. I think it was really more of along the lines of like, hey man, I know that you're writhing in pain here, but like, we got to play. We got to go. Let's get this in motion, because it can feel like when you are to the point that you made with your daughter, when patience has run thin, it can come out in other ways
that might be
you maybe don't feel is the case, but just like you can't mask it. You can't hold it in. You're human every single time. So that to me felt more like it's not that he's doubting the pain. It's just perhaps there is frustration about how the team's cohesion has been. And in that moment, when you see someone, even if they're really hurt, maybe he's just feeling like, get up, like, come on.
Okay.
And so it's just a lack of keeping intrusive thoughts in, perhaps.
It's being extrusive when one should be intrusive.
Yeah.
That's a great response. And I appreciate it, because I that's not where my mind did not go to that place. You wanted to talk about Mitch. Let's talk about Mitch.
I did. The real thing I want to talk about Mitch was, and I tweeted about with the Yves Missi rumor and everything, and
There's
mentioned
another report, by the way, from I think Brett Siegel of Clutch Points that so now a couple people have said the Knicks have checked in on Missi.
Right. So first off, I don't want the Knicks to trade Mitchell Robinson for Yves Missi. That was never really crossed my mind. Never something I wanted. Secondly, the thought was with Mitch, I would love for Mitch to stay. If you have to move Mitch, it has to be for equal talent coming back. That's really hard to do when you have someone as good as Mitch in the final year of his contract, who's playing as well as he is, but also has the injury history that he has, while also not wanting to lose sight of the most obvious goal here, which very clearly for the Knicks, barring something serious happening between now and the deadline, which I don't think will, because Giannis Antetokounmpo is probably not going to play another game between now and the deadline for the Bucks.
No,
which is Giannis Antetokounmpo. So my whole thing with Mitchell Robinson hasn't been like, if you don't get Giannis, you have to trade Mitch no matter what. That's not it. There are second apron concerns. You are hard capped to the second apron if you have to worry about that next year too. So if you get Giannis and you want to fit Mitch in, that's more of a challenge. So then if you can't do that, then are you signing and trading him? But the goal is to have both. That is my preferred plan. If you are saying, hey, how can we get as much talent in the door and get these guys together, and not trading Mitch, but also getting the golden goose. For me, then, okay, there's one way of doing that. We're really there too. Talked about both of them in a previous Cap or No Cap. One of them is you consolidate in a way where you get Anthony Davis. And by getting Anthony Davis, that is the same salary as Giannis. And now you're moving his salary in the offseason and doing what you can there. I don't think that's a preferred route. I would not personally do that. The other way,
I would not do that either. The other route. Yeah.
The other route is that you get Giannis in season, and then you don't have to worry about being below the second apron next year, because you have every intention of going above it.
Yeah.
Because you have Giannis.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to clear that part up, because what I tweeted about, and it's on me a little bit as well, because of the Missi and the Mitch portion of it, that it made it seem like a one-to-one, here's a replacement. And that it wasn't quite what I meant, because the other thing with Missi is if you're looking for a player that is earning more money than you would imagine, let's say Missi is sitting behind Mitch and he's your third big instead of Huck Porty, you're committing more money towards your books next year. So that would mean your second apron space gets even smaller. So that would actually lend itself further into the direction perhaps of getting Giannis in season, but it doesn't have to be, because if you moved Yabusele and Dadier, for example, for Alvarado and Missi, the money is about the same.
Yep.
So it's then, you're doing whatever with Huck Porty. So you can look at it a few different ways, but that was the whole Mitch portion I just wanted to clear up, because I feel like that kind of got out of hand and I didn't get the opportunity to really talk about it.
That's exactly why I wanted to bring it up. The Mitch situation remains a curiosity for me, and I think the most curious part about it for me is not the fact that he's an expiring contract and who knows what he's going to want or what the deal is going to look like and where that is, what the impact is going to have on second apron, and even conversations about how much do you invest in a non-spacing center if you do somehow obtain Giannis Antetokounmpo at some point. The most interesting part for me is if they were going to turn around and look to deal Mitch before this deadline, there's just no universe where I personally can envision getting enough on-court value back to make it worth it, because I don't see the team out there that is going to look at Mitchell Robinson and be like, we have to get that guy at all costs, because even though the Knicks and us, the fans, love Mitchell Robinson like crazy, there is a health issue, there is a reliability issue, and there is an issue with the fact that, like, he is a very unique player in what he does and the things that he is not as strong doing. So I just don't know, like, where's I was, looking at the New Orleans stuff and like, oh, well, if you get Alvarado and Misi and, and then you throw in Bay too, well, then the money is then it's closer to Mitch's money and this and that. I'm like, why is New Orleans batting down the door to get their hands on a guy who they're going to have to pay? And he's obviously going to be a backup center because you already have Derek Queen. And it's like, I don't know. I would be, at this point, I'm going to go with the default. I would be surprised if anything happened with Mitch. I would be surprised if anything happened with Deuce. And I'm just going to say it. At this point, I would be surprised if anything happened with the top 7. I think it's going to be a fringe move, and I don't think they're going to make a move unless there's something coming with Giannis that I don't see right now, which is entirely possible. It's entirely possible there's something coming that I don't see right now.
Why don't you see it?
I don't see it because it feels like there are too many moving parts right now where nobody is going to be happy with the value that they get. In that, like, again, you're talking about potentially a Portland team integrating a Mikal Bridges midseason. You're talking about finding, unless Milwaukee wants to take on Cat, why would they? You're talking about finding a fourth team that's going to value Cat maybe enough to, throw a little something Milwaukee's way. You're talking about the Knicks not having access to the draft picks that they're going to have access to on draft night. And I think at the same time, you're probably talking about who knows what's going to happen between now and the summer. And it would behoove Milwaukee to wait, because it doesn't seem like, I don't know, maybe I'm misreading the room. It doesn't seem like there's people like willing to offer the mega haul right now. Maybe that changes in the summer. I know that could be wrong, but that's why I think the way I think.
Sure. Well, for starters, if nobody's going to be happy, then there's something to be said that might actually be a fair deal.
Man, yeah, it's fair, but this doesn't strike me as the sort of, if it's okay, if Milwaukee's like, yeah, I guess, okay, that's fair. Don't you just hang on to him until the summer, or is that no longer an option? Maybe that ship has sailed. I don't know.
Well, the benefit, if you are Milwaukee, if you're trading Giannis, is you are saying to the team that gets Giannis, you're getting 2 bites at the apple of a title.
I've made this point. Yes.
Right. So then you have Giannis with 1 year of team control. And at that point, we've seen, I understand that cap space is less of a factor and age and everything. And it's like a team could say, yeah, Giannis, we dare you to hit the open market, or we dare you to opt into your contract and and then you're with us for 2 years and it doesn't matter. But there's a level of agency that's there. And with the Bridges portion, I mean, to me, I understand that he didn't fit with Tibbs, but I would envision that he's probably one of the more seamless plug and play type of guys with
Sure.
what you could
Yeah.
do. So I don't think that, and
Well,
maybe it could be different. Again,
just
he
one
didn't-
other thing with Bridges, which is that his salary bump doesn't happen until the summer, and the salary matching with whether it's Grant or Holiday, it becomes a lot easier after the new league year starts.
Sure.
Whatever
So
role that's in.
I don't see either of those players being the moving pieces here.
Oh, okay.
But
Interesting.
so I'll just walk you through my mindset. as
Yeah,
I
I don't want to spend too long on this, but sure, let's walk
Sure.
through it. And then, yeah, all right.
So I mean, what we're describing wouldn't really be separate deals. It would probably have to be one large deal. And you were saying, you're involving 4 teams. It's a lot, of course, but we are also, because of the aprons and restrictions and everything, we've entered a new world where 4 or 5 team trades aren't that unlikely anymore. They actually, it's like, I need help to do this. Okay, let's loop in another team what do they want? So it just can add up in that way. But the way that I see it is, okay, if you were to move Bridges to Portland, starting
Okay.
there's the thought process, yes, of what player is coming back. I know there's Jeremy Grant, there's Drew Holiday. Looking at Portland's books, especially if we're talking about how do you make a Giannis trade work, and also looping in another team that gets Cat to not Milwaukee, but another place. So this would be at minimum 4 teams. Again, not saying it's easy, just saying there's a dance that's going on here.
I know where you're going.
If you are Milwaukee, if you are Portland, first thing is that you are getting this player for his salary slot this year. And when you're thinking about what does Milwaukee probably want, I would imagine they want picks, they want young players, and they want expiring contracts. I would imagine Portland doesn't want to be in the luxury tax. And I would imagine that Milwaukee wants their picks back, and Portland's probably saying, well, we don't want to just give all of that for Mikal Bridges. But with that in mind, I was thinking, if I am Portland, what I'm doing when I see Shaedon Sharpe's contract extension kicking in next year, and I see Toumani Camara's contract, and then I've got these other players that are under contract as well. If I'm Portland and I have Damian Lillard coming back, I don't really want to hold on to Scoot Henderson for the final year of his rookie contract. And I'd rather move on from him and his $13 million salary.
Well, but he's still look. I know there's a lot of bloom off the rose, and for all I know, maybe all the bloom is off the rose. But if you're gonna get him involved there, then you would need Milwaukee. I would think you would need Milwaukee to value that bite at the apple, him as a second draft guy.
Sure, but
to some extent.
But again, the main prize in this case for Milwaukee is that they're trying to recoup. Yeah. No. Portland. That's for Portland. For
Milwaukee, sorry.
Milwaukee wants their 2028 swap back. They want their 2029 pick back, and they want their 2030 swap back, which means that they can do poorly this year and still get a great pick, even with Atlanta having the swap. Next year is what it is. They'll find a way to do what they need to do, and then they enter a year in which they have their draft capital. So it's really just kind of how do we get through the 2026-27 season? We'll figure that one out. But the thing is, if you are going through that swap and you're moving, say, Scoot Henderson here, if you're the Knicks and you're trying to move these pieces and whatnot, you're probably looking at, if you're Portland, you're saying, well, we've got Scoot going out. We also need to get a wing out, and we want to send expiring money. That's where Matisse Thybulle would come into play. And then the money of Thybulle and Scoot is pretty much the same as Bridges. So
22, Bridges is at 24. I was wondering if you were going to go Time Lord, but
no, I'm not going Time Lord because of the fact that I think that they still can re-sign Time Lord and still have Donovan Clingan and be a deep team and still avoid the luxury tax next year, even with Bridges' salary, because you're also moving off of Scoot Henderson. And if the Blazers make the playoffs, then their first round pick finally conveys to the Bulls. So that's less money that they have to worry about there. With that in mind, I also would imagine they try to move off of someone like Murray, because then that helps them duck the salary cap, the luxury tax this year. And then they clear a little bit of space and gain that back. So they have a team full of veterans and some young pieces that they really like, and they're able to move it that way. And if you're saying, well, why would the Blazers do that, that feels like, okay, they're moving Scoot, who they might still believe in, and the swaps and the pick for the Bucks over back to Milwaukee. What's up with that? That's where perhaps the Knicks can say, hey, those swaps that we have, we'll trade you our swaps for those swaps, and we'll put those swaps and send them to Milwaukee.
Swaps on swaps on swaps.
Right, but it's the Knicks saying, we're taking on the risk here, and we're saying, Portland, you still get your pound of flesh, but it's ours, not Milwaukee's. Give that back to Milwaukee, and you get Mikal Bridges, and financially, you're set. And from the Knicks' perspective, especially if you're moving Cat, and because that's what they would have to as well in order to get Giannis, and if you're trying to find a package to move Yabusele to get some other piece or whatever it might be, that's where I can also see having enough money to slide in Bobby Portis, because then the Bucks get to say, great, we move off of some long-term money here because Bobby Portis is under contract, not just this year, not just next year, but a player option for the year after that. So they get to take some of that money off the books too. Kuzma, probably hard to move, but he is a free agent after next season. All of this to say,
contract.
It's essentially a way for the value proposition for these teams is, if you're the Knicks, you get Giannis and try to add other pieces along those margins, like you talked about, to fit around him. And you can keep Mitch and other players to go above the second apron next season. If you're the Blazers, you're still getting good future equity, and you're getting a player that is going to help you win, because that's what you want. And you're able to be cost conscious the whole time. It means you have to move off of Scoot, but you're probably comfortable with that because that's part of why you got Damian Lillard. You didn't bring Damian Lillard back just so he could play off the bench. If you're in Milwaukee, you can tank in peace a little bit more, and you get to get your young players in the door. You get to have some more expiring money. Then it comes down to the Cat portion, which is harder to figure out because it could be Orlando, and then you're moving other pieces. It could be Charlotte. And
I mean, to me, the
pieces like
the Cat, Charlotte's the Cat team. Charlotte, for anybody who may not be paying attention to the Charlotte Hornets, and how dare you, Charlotte's on a little bit of a run here. They're currently a game back of the aforementioned Milwaukee Bucks. They have actually a positive point differential. The reason why they have a positive point differential and they are 10 games under 500 is they have been one of the most abhorrent teams in clutch situations this year, but that is now slowly getting better, although they nearly blew a game to the fucking Wizards the other day. But like, Charlotte is like making themselves out to be a real team. And again, you talk about the tangled webs that we weave. You got the Hawks there at suddenly 3 games under 500. They could like kind of sort of still pivot into a tank themselves. Now, they don't have their own pick. Their pick belongs to San Antonio, so there's not really any incentive for them to tank, especially since they have this pick coming in. So, but it's like there's a lot of ties together here. And if the Hornets ever look at themselves like, you know what, we could make a freaking run at the play-in right now. Mm-hmm. I wonder what they would put on the table to find out, hey, maybe a stretch 5 and with LaMelo Ball and Con Knippel and Brandon Miller, and the whole thing helps us get there. But I don't know.
Which also, there were talks of the Bucks being potentially interested in Miles Bridges. That's money that could be going back there. Then but would they be the fact that the Bucks and the Hornets traded with each other to get money off the books and Pat Connaughton. So they have a familiarity there.
Yeah, but you wouldn't figure Miles Bridges would be going to Milwaukee if they're trading Giannis. But hey, look, crazier things have happened. Who knows?
But what I'm saying is, it could either be they've got that salary because they just have to make the math work, and then they can send him to another team. It's like there's a lot of complications, but there are also a lot of possibilities. They can also hold on to him and feel like this is not the best time to move him. Let's move him this summer. We think that we could get a better deal for Miles Bridges this summer because he is not of Giannis hype, of course, but it's a smaller salary when teams maybe reset. There's nothing saying the Bucks have to shed everyone on their roster. They're losing games with Giannis Antetokounmpo on their roster. So they're still going to lose. It's just a question of, are they losing and trying to just like completely bottom out, or are they holding players out, or are they playing them and they're still losing games?
Look, here's where I'm at, and then we'll give out game balls and we'll finish off our Sunday watching football. I don't think that there would be any internal conversation that needs to happen for the Knicks if they could turn Mikal Bridges and Karl Anthony Towns into Giannis Antetokounmpo and whatever. Some player who can credibly step foot on the court and potentially contribute a few minutes. But like, I don't, because again, there's something else they're going to be able to do with Yabusele, flip Yabusele and Dadier, even if it maybe costs you Diawara, flip those guys into a productive NBA player. I don't even think that there is a conversation because of what I just talked about before, which is you just showed the ability to beat pretty soundly, when they had all the momentum in their building, the Philadelphia 76ers, when those two guys gave you nothing, absolutely nothing. So now you're taking the nothing and you're replacing it with one of the top 3 players in the league. Now, Philly's not the best team in the East. The best team in the East is Detroit and Boston. But I mean, but that's the other reason why I think you don't even think twice about it.
We're using one game sample size to dictate why you got nothing, and now you're trying to turn nothing into one of the best players. We just talked about what Cat's abilities have been in the past, and we just talked about the Mikal Bridges.
To me, it's
as an individual player has been great. It's just the team effort and how it fits.
I understand that, and also if this team really wants to get honest with itself and really wants to look at itself in the mirror, they're going to look at the Detroit series and how they tried to beat that fucking square peg into that round hole for 6 games to try to activate Cat against a team that was, whether they were putting Duran on him, which was a little bit easier, or they were putting a big wing on him. And like, it kind of sort of worked a few times. Not really. Mikal Bridges gave them I don't want to say Mikal Bridges gave them very little in that series, but that series turned when OG Anunoby started guarding Cade Cunningham. And then you went to Boston. Obviously, Mikal's moments in Boston were very big, very loud. Anybody's welcome to go look at what Mikal Bridges shot before 4th quarters in that series. Not great. And then Karl Anthony Towns. I had Karl Anthony Towns as the 5th best Knick against Boston. That was me. Others may disagree. I had him as the 5th best Knick. No better than the 5th best Knick. And then you get the Indiana series where, again, Bridges was okay. He was fine. He had some moments, had a couple of 4th quarters again. And then you had big game 1 from Towns, big 4th quarter in game 3 from Towns. But like, and the biggest reason, I think you could sell this to the owner. And say, yeah, we gave up a lot for this guy, Mikal Bridges. We gave up, an all-star and our beloved DiVincenzo for Cat. But now look what we're turning both of those guys into. Now we're giving you the star that we promised we're going to get you for 6 years. And I think you could sell that to James Dolan. I don't think there's any conversation with the Knicks. I think they do it without even thinking twice. I just don't think the opportunity is going to be there.
That's fine. I would also say that the star that they tried to get in the building's name is Jalen Brunson. They did a pretty good job of getting him in the building. I understand that he's not. That was what? What? Just because he had connections, suddenly that
fell in there. That fell in their lap.
Oh, so because some other team fucked up, that means that the Knicks aren't the beneficiary?
No, I don't. No.
They got it done. They did it. They did the thing. Because some other team didn't get it done, and now like that's not an indictment. They did it.
No, it's not. No, it's not an indictment. And Leon Rose is always. I don't care if it was his own son. It was his son representing the man, but that's neither here nor there. It doesn't matter. You got him. He's gonna have his number hanging from the rafters one day, and he's at this rate. If he keeps playing like this for a few more years, he's gonna go into the Hall of Fame. And you sign him to a fucking free agent. So I'm not trying to downplay the impact that Jalen Brunson has had, but I think it would make it a lot more likely that this front office delivers on their. I'm sure I don't want to say they've promised this, but deliver on what we hope that they're going to deliver on and deliver a championship to the Knicks if they could pair Jalen Brunson with a guy who is better than Jalen Brunson. And the only way that's going to happen in the near future is if you go get this guy.
I agree with the last part of your statement. Absolutely. I'm just pushing back on
that's fine.
On the idea that
it's fair.
Haven't gotten the guy who has changed the entire culture of this team.
They have. You're right. They did. They absolutely did. 100%.
I'm not quite understanding Are you saying that Cat and Bridges that they're not worth anything, and they're not going to be able to turn them into something?
I'm saying,
or you're just rolling with it?
There is a possibility, right? There is a possibility that they roll with this core, this top 7, and wherever else, Shamet, whoever else they get at the deadline, and they could make the finals. I think that is still a possibility. I don't know if you're Leon Rose and you have a chance to either A, roll forward with that possibility, or B, exchange whatever odds you think there are of that possibility happening and going out and turning it into Giannis Antetokounmpo. I know it's going to leave you a little thin. I get it. There is not a team in the East that I would pick to beat the Knicks if they have Jalen Brunson, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and then you give me what? OG Anunoby and Mitchell Robinson and Josh Hart, and if Deuce McBride is still here, God willing, plus whatever else you could get to fill out the rotation. Landry Shamet, come on. I
agree.
Detroit's going to scare me then. Even if Boston gets Tatum back, I'm still taking the Knicks over them. I just don't think it's a conversation. That's all. That's why the only.
You don't think what's a conversation that the Knicks would?
And if you have a chance to do this, you do it.
Yeah, sure. I agree with that.
That's all. Yeah. No, that's
it
all
was
I'm
more.
trying to say.
It was the possibility of it happening that it felt like you were saying the door's not even going to be open, because if it were, you instantly go through it, but the door's not going to happen.
I'm trying to read the tea leaves, and the tea leaves to me say that it's not going to happen before the deadline. I hope I am completely misreading the tea leaves. Because I agree with you, logically speaking, there is no reason why it shouldn't happen now.
Right. There are too many unhappy parties that are looking for change of sceneries and upgrades. That's why I think it could happen. And when you look at these other teams that the Knicks are calling on them, where you're adding more pieces, if you're adding these pieces, whether it's Alvarado or Najee Marshall or whomever it is, the minutes, they've got an 8-man rotation, really. If you're adding a 9th guy, sure, maybe someone might get squeezed out of playing time, whatever it might be. But you're probably going to, the way I see it is, if you're looking at these pieces, it's because you might be thinning yourself out a little bit. It doesn't mean you have to, but you might be in that position. You know what I'm saying?
You know what the beautiful thing is about how the Knicks are constructed is, even if they do this 2-for-1 swap, putting Mitch aside, because but again, that is to me, if you're going to keep Mitch, you're banking on Mitch being healthy for the playoffs, because there's no back-to-back in the playoffs. So either the guy's going to be healthy or the guy's not. This whole fucking plan is designed to do what? Have him healthy for the beginning of April, right? And you're banking on the fact that there's not going to be a freak injury and he's going to be fine. Okay. Everybody else on your, Landry Shamet, if you need Landry Shamet to go out there and play 25 minutes, guess what? I don't really care who he's playing with. If you put him on the floor with guys around, real dudes around him, that dude could go out there and give you 25 minutes. Deuce McBride, you need to go out there and give you 30 minutes, 35 minutes. He could go out there and give you 30, 35 minutes. So you have these bench pieces that could go out there, and then if you combine it with the other guys you already have on your roster and the guys you're bringing in, I think the minutes thing, I'm actually not even that worried about the depth at that point.
Sure. I'd say that Deuce McBride's emergence is also what can contribute for Mikal Bridges not being as essential to this team. And then if you're using marginal pieces, that's to help backfill the seat that someone like Deuce would fill if you need him to slot in and start.
Look, there's a DJ Zullo, our colleague, has been saying for a year, this team would be better if Deuce McBride was starting in place of Mikal Bridges. And he's not the only one that thinks that,
Sure. But there is no, and I know you agree with this, there's no way that the Knicks, who've traded 5 picks, are bringing Mikal Bridges off the bench.
0% chance.
If they don't see improvement from him from a team, we instead of me perspective, not that he's a selfish player, but it's actually,
I don't think he's
more
the
selfish
guy.
No, but I'm saying he could be more selfish than he is, but that's just not who he is. And you're not bringing him off the bench, then you're either sticking with him or you're moving him. But if you're moving him because it's of value in other areas of the roster. That's why what I said it would be a 2. It wouldn't shock me in the slightest if they reshuffled in such a way where a lot of people were happy and a lot of teams got what they wanted out of this.
Jeremy, if they pull this off for the deadline, I don't ever want to hear another bad word about Leon Rose. Ever.
Well, to be fair, and I'm a fan of this front office, it
You
still
are.
has to work. They can be creative.
Oh,
They've been
no.
creative,
Well,
but it
yeah,
still has to
sure.
work.
Fine. Yes. But
Right.
if
yes.
they turn what if we add it all up, so all the picks that you use for Mikal Bridges and whatever else you have to throw in to this deal, plus essentially Julius Randle, who you kept and extended, plus Dante DiVincenzo, who you signed on the freaking mid-level. And if you turn all of that, picks Dante, Julius, or sorry, go even step back, picks, mid-level exception, Julius, and you essentially turn that into Giannis Antetokounmpo?
And your first and Bojan Bogdanovic.
Yeah, great, whatever.
Like, all the things that go into it.
So fine. And where'd you get for Bogdanovic? You used the Evan Fournier contract. So it combines everything. It is your one splash of free agency, yes. Fournier to Bogey to and Grimes, who was a draft pick you made. It's all of it. Put it all in the kitty. And you turn all of that into Giannis, build the man a fucking statue.
Continuous soup, baby. That's all it is.
I pray. All right, let's give out some game balls. Given to one player, coach, or entity that deserves special recognition for their accomplishments over the past week. Who picked what last week?
You picked 2 and 1. I picked 3.
And they went 2 and 1.
Mm-hmm.
So I get to give the game ball out again. Mitch gets my game ball. Mitch was the only guy who showed up against Dallas. Mitch was as impressive as anyone against Brooklyn. I mean, the whole team was impressive against Brooklyn, but he was as impressive as anyone. And then he changed the game against the Sixers. Easy one, actually, for me. Mitchell Robinson. Long live Mitch.
Yeah, I figured you were going to go in that direction, so I will go with Landry Shamet.
Very good choice.
Just the clutch shots, especially against Philly. Hit all of his shots against Brooklyn. Nice to see him back. Jordan Clarkson not being in the rotation as soon as Landry Shamet comes back. Not a coincidence to me. Just feels like you got a better ball screen navigator and better shooter. Someone who can exist and be a little bit more agile. So just means the expense of Clarkson, but it's Shamet 100%.
Good stuff. I love it. Detention. That was a quick game ball. Given to one player, coach, or entity that deserves to go into a dark room for a long time and think about what they did wrong and can do better the next time. Sir.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Mikal Bridges on this one for this week. Shot 31% from the floor, 19% from 3. I mean, small sample size, of course, but wasn't the player the Knicks needed to be, was rightfully benched because he wasn't able to contribute. It was a bad week. Again, still doesn't mean that as an individual, he can't be a good player. To your point, his efficiency is up on the whole. It's just a matter of how he fits short-term, long-term. We will see. But this past week, he was not good. So he gets the detention for me.
A fine selection. I went with Yabu last week, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. Here, to show that I am not a hater. No, I'm not going to go with Towns. To show that I'm fair and impartial, you know who I'm putting in detention this week? Leon Rose. And you know why? Because he made 2 significant additions this summer. One has not done anything to help this team this year and is going to be traded in short order. And the other one is, granted, he got on a minimum. It was a flyer, the whole thing. But Jordan Clarkson is now outside of the rotation as well. Whether he gets bought out or whether he gets traded or whether they keep him around. Maybe, a break in case of emergency guy. I don't know how he's going to like that. But look, I am, to be very clear, I still have faith in this front office. I will not kill them to the extent that I know some people are already killing them, because hindsight's always 20/20 for the cat trade. There's a lot of complications going on at that time. And the one thing that I always go back to is, yes, like part of your job as an owner or as a GM or president of basketball, whatever, is to convince your ownership of the things that you believe are in the best interest of the franchise. Like being a president of basketball operations for a James Dolan owned team it's a different bag of apples. and he's always dealing with that set of restrictions. And I just, whenever I think about things that he has done where I'm like, man, why didn't he think about that one more? Why didn't he see this coming? I always have to remind myself of that. So I like putting him in detention and then I'm giving him kudos afterwards, but I just wanted to kind of put it in context. So there you go.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Who would you, minimum signings or minimum signings? Right. It's pretty standard. Who would you have signed with the hindsight to the taxpayer mid-level instead?
Oh, that's a good
Who, and I'll add, who is not a restricted free agent because we know how hard offer sheets are.
Hang on. Maybe they could have went out and got Mamu, who signed for a minimum in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
But then Mamu, who has a player option that he will decline, just for context.
Yeah, I know.
Is he going to?
He's not changing your life.
Well, it's not even that. It's what if he opts out? Now you lost team control of him potentially. So now are you?
I mean,
yes. Look, obviously he'd be a better fit, but you kind of want to walk that line of worth the contract, but also not.
I mean,
exceeding it, so you lose them.
It would probably be a 5. Like I think B-Ball Paul was he was a free agent this past year.
He was.
Yeah.
But he also was with the Pistons last year, and it would have been the same money pretty much, minus a couple $100,000.
That's true. No, look, you're making.
I don't say this in defense of like Yabu is absolutely the signing. It's just I'm open to hearing.
It's a good.
Who it would be if it weren't Yabu, because I know Andrew also mentioned the Knicks didn't address a point of attack, that sort of thing. All they had available to them. Was the draft. There were no guys that really were going to do the job with free agency. So then it's with trade. And then who are you trading? Do you want to trade anyone in your top 7? You can't use the taxpayer mid-level exception to use it as a trade exception. It's only for signing. So that's why it's one of those things where you sign someone, you wait, you see what shakes out, and then you make the trades that are necessary. And we are now entering that last part, which is where they're going to hopefully make the trades that are necessary.
You know who would have been worth the mid-level more than Yabu? PJ Tucker. And not for playing a blessed minute on the basketball court. Mm-hmm. It might have still been worth it, and fivefold. All right, let's do predictions. We got 4-game week, including a back-to-back coming up with travel, as I noted before. So this is what is this? A Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday slate, right? Because there's 31 days in January here. So Sacramento on the road to Toronto, Portland at home, and then the Lakers at home. I'm going to be optimistic. I'll go 3-1.
I will go 2-2.
Okay. Would you have taken 3-1 if you had the first pick?
Yeah,
okay.
I would have, especially with 3 of those games at home. 4-0 is hard. I picked 3-0 last time. Got burned for it first game, so I'll be a little bit more negative.
Man, if they could, look, if they get swept by the fucking Kings this year, let's just end the season. If they could go up to Toronto on the second night of a back-to-back and take that game, I don't even care how they look. I don't care how they win it. I really don't care. If they take that game on the second night of a back-to-back, that'll impress me. That'll show me more than the Philly game even shows me.
I hope you win the week.
Yeah, well, yeah, I hope so too. All right. Anything else before we get it? It's went a little long, but I think it was good.
Agreed. Any comments? Anything?
Oh yes, thank you. I forgot that last time. My goodness gracious. Yeah, we got a couple super chats right here. Sub Comandante Marcos. Hey John, just want to humbly and respectfully apologize for quote tweeting your hacked tweet earlier today. Your friend, the Big Bodega. I don't know what to make out of that. Thank you for the contribution. And then Jeremy to detention for trading Mitch, joins Robert W. Cross. Why is Robert in detention?
Well, Robert is always in detention, but
is he?
I mean, in Kevin's eyes, of course. I just made the argument for why I wouldn't, and like what you would need to get back probably is not consummate to what Mitch is. But if you can get that, it's worth considering. We can't sit here and say only number 11 is untouchable and then get upset at the concept of trading anyone. Like, I don't think Deuce should be traded. I don't see a lot of fits where that would make sense. I'm not going to say he's untouchable. It's the right deal. If we just say no deal is the right deal, then that makes him untouchable. And that's not what we're saying. We wouldn't say Mitch is untouchable unless it's feelings driven, in which case, maybe for Kevin, it is. But I don't think it is. So,
look, no one, Luka Doncic got traded. So that's all that needs to be said. Yeah. Anyway, okay. This was great, Jeremy. Thank you. Thanks to everybody. We got about 1,000 people watching right now on a snowy football Sunday. I hope everybody enjoys what's left of your weekend. I know for some of you, it will, for your kids at least, it will extend to a 3-day weekend. My kids are gonna be home tomorrow, so that should be fun. But everybody stay dry. I hope everybody, has power and everything. And we will be back with more funny games next Monday because they play next Sunday. So we'll see you on Monday. And until then, take care. Thanks. Peace out.
Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777. Massachusetts, call 800-327-5050. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY. Maryland, visit mdgamblinghelp.org. Not available in all states. Terms apply. See the Fanatics Sportsbook app.